Jenni Carlson.
I'm Barry Trammell. Welcome to the Jenni and Berry Show. OSU isn't changing conferences, but the Cowboys conference is changing again. 2 schools will leave the Big 12 this summer, while another 4 new schools come in.
So with OSU having wrapped up spring football, it's time to start thinking about the brave new world the Cowboys will be in this fall. What are we most looking forward to? We'll talk about that and more, but first, we want to say thanks to these sponsors for supporting the Jenni and Berry Show. MidFirst Bank, Next Gen Roofing, Two Fellas Movers, the Oklahoma Ford Dealers Association. Drive into your best in Oklahoma Ford dealers today for the best deals on Ford's full lineup of trucks and SUVs. Ford is the best in Oklahoma. And hey, if you haven't subscribed to our show, please do so on YouTube. We're over 1,000 subscribers, Barry. People are subscribing, but keep doing it. It helps us to help you, so subscribe today. Well, Barry, like I said, spring ball over in Stillwater, and while we're obviously aware that all of the OSU sports are going to be playing in the new Big 12, football is going to be our focus today. So what are you most looking forward to with this new Big 12 that the Cowboys are soon to step into?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because this is happening in a year of such promise for OSU.
Right.
18 returning starters made the Big 12 championship game a year ago. So this was going to be a really exciting year for OSU football, no matter what league they were in or who was in it. But if you're looking about just what's exciting about the new configuration, it's for the second straight years, it's a bunch of newcomers. I mean, we're going to be down when the Big 12 kicks off this year, half the league will have been in the league for 12 months or less. That's just crazy. And we got some interesting new people last year, notably Central Florida and Brigham Young. This year, here comes Deion Sanders and Utah. The Utes have been Pac-12 mainstays, won a couple of Pac-12 titles in a row in 21-22. So I think just the steady diet of new faces and new opponents really adds some spice to a college football schedule. Cowboys are going to get that in 2024.
Yeah, it's ironic to think, Barry, that the Big 12 will be, light on teams that were in the Big 8, and yet Colorado comes back. So it's sort of this weird dichotomy that what's old or what's old is new again. There we go. In some ways with Colorado being in the fray. But, I think it's fascinating to think what a long-term power like Utah will look like in the Big 12. Arizona obviously had a huge breakout season a year ago under Jed Fish, who's now at Washington. So what will their new coaching staff be able to bring? Will they be able to carry on with, with the success that they saw last year? Arizona State feels to me like it's in a major area. It's in an area that you see a lot of players come out of, the Phoenix area. So you wonder if there's going to be a point when maybe they hit the accelerator. So just a lot of unknowns in terms of how those new programs will fare in the Big 12. And yet I think it's a lot more known because they've been Power 5 teams, Barry. I mean, they've played in the Pac-12, whereas with the teams that came in last year, you had teams that hadn't really played at that level of football for years. So you didn't know, how was Houston going to fare? How was BYU going to fare? BYU was probably the most, known of those 4 new ones this last year because they had played such a robust independent schedule. But I think we have a little more idea of what these 4 new teams are coming into the fall of 24. But I think it's going to be fun to see how they stack up. And then can OSU use this new conference as a springboard to, get back to the Big 12 title game and maybe make this expanded playoff, Barry? I think that's something I'm definitely looking forward to, is seeing how does the playoff and the new Big 12, how does it all interweave this next year?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point you made about these teams, these programs are much more known than, say, Cincinnati, Houston, Central Florida, proven, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's to me, just all kinds of wild things have occurred. Exactly this time last year, the Big 12 had 0 members in the Mountain Time Zone. come July 1st, they're going to have 5 members in the Mountain Time Zone, and they're going to have that goes with 3 in the Eastern Time Zone. I mean, half the league is not even going to be in the Central Time Zone, which is where Cowboys have lived their life. So, just a lot of different things. Last year, Cowboys got shut out of Texas opponents other than Houston, the newcomer. They didn't play Texas in the regular season. Texas Tech, Baylor, TCU. Now Baylor, TCU, Tech back on the schedule. So it's going to be an interesting collection of opponents. It's just going to be a brave new world. It's going to be it's virtually like the Cowboys themselves have joined a new conference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it is interesting that it is the land shifting under their feet, and they aren't even leaving Stillwater. So there's a lot to learn about what this conference is going to look like. But what are you thinking about when it comes to what we're going to learn about this Big 12? To me, I want to know if the 2 teams that I sort of look at as the teams that have been strongest for the longest, Oklahoma State and Utah, can they exert themselves as the teams to beat in the conference? I mean, obviously K-State's got a long track record. They look like they're going to be good. There's some other programs that are going to be in that mix, but can Oklahoma State and Utah take their game to the top of the Big 12, sort of exert their supremacy? To me, that's the thing I'm most looking forward to. But what about you, Barry?
Well, it's same thing, only maybe broader in that the Big 12 is the funnest league in football.
Yeah.
I mean, Big 10, we sort of know what's been going on. It's Ohio State or Michigan with a little bit of Penn State mixed in. SEC, a lot of Alabama, a lot of Georgia, little LSU mixed in. You get to the Big 12, in the recent past, anything could happen. Now you're throwing all this, extra ingredients into the stew. And yeah, we think OSU and Utah have been the best programs on a national scale, with some serious contention by Kansas State from time to time. But we don't know. Heck, we don't know. Kansas could be really good. Will Arizona sustain that momentum? Central Florida, people are saying they're coming, and maybe they're coming. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But it's wild. Remember, the last 4 years, with OU and Texas in the league, the Big 12 has had 4 conference title games, so 8 conference title game participants. 7 schools have been represented in those 4 title games. OSU's the only program to go more than once.
Yeah.
So that's parity that's unparalleled elsewhere. Is that going to continue in the Big 12? We start finding out.
Well, and I think it's been interesting, too, that part of that parity of who makes the Big 12 title game, it's often not even who we think is going to be at the top. I mean, think about where Oklahoma State started last year when it came to preseason polls and rankings and expectations. I mean, people did not expect Oklahoma State to be one of those final 2 teams to be in Arlington. And you could say that the previous year about TCU, a team that, a new coach, they were going to have a lot of transfers. Nobody really knew what to expect. They not only made the Big 12 title game, they didn't win it, but they made the playoff and made it all the way to the national championship game. So this league's not only been parity heavy, but it's been surprising parity and who has risen up from year to year. And, the fact that Oklahoma State has been there a couple times gives it a leg up on sort of establishing itself. But clearly Utah's been great. K-State, it looks like they could be good. Kansas looks like they could be good. Another curiosity I have, those 4 newcomers that were in the league this last football season, BYU, Cincinnati, UCF, Houston, are any of them likely to rise up? You mentioned UCF a second ago, Barry. The Golden Knights seem like they might have some pieces. I think their linemen are, maybe where this argument goes down to, but are any of those teams in your mind primed to maybe be a contender for that championship game?
Well, I think Central Florida is in the best shape. I think they're going to be a force in the Big 12. I think they got a good program. The sky's the limit on resources. They're in a fabulous recruiting situation in Orlando. They got a good coach in Gus Malzahn. The alumni base is massive and young, which means it's got staying power. Lots to like about Central Florida in the future. Will they be relevant now? They were mediocre, in year one, but dang near won in Norman. Blitzed the Cowboys in Orlando, a terribly one-sided game. So I like Central Florida to be a dark horse. I think they're the only ones of the four. Brigham Young, I think, is still in the adjustment phase.
Yeah.
Good program, but really going to have to figure out how to get more athletic in the Big 12. Cincinnati still in rebuilding. Houston still in rebuilding.
Yeah.
But watch out for the Knights of UCF.
Yeah, of the four, I agree. I think they're the team most likely to have some say-so in this conference race in 2024. Houston obviously changed coaches, going from Dana Holgerson to Willie Fritz. Fritz obviously built Tulane, so he can do it. Cincinnati has been there as recently as any team that'll be in the Big 12 made the college football playoff not too long ago. So there's reason to think that each of these teams has the ability to do it, but in the short term, it does feel like UCF has much better pieces already, and they seem to maybe have a bead on getting into that upper half of the Big 12. All four of those teams, Barry, finished right at the bottom of the league last year. So really surprising that we didn't see more, just something out of those teams to kind of start to establish themselves. But let's not forget, TCU came into this league and they struggled for a few years after being really good in the Mountain West and other conferences, but it didn't take them long. They figured it out. I have to assume some of these teams will as well. But yeah, UCF, I like them in 24 if we're talking about those, that first wave of the new teams in the Big 12. Okay, as we talk about things we don't know what's going to happen, is there anything that you're certain about when it comes to the new era of the Big 12?
I'm certain Kansas State will remain solid. I'm certain that OSU in 24 is going to be good. I'm certain that Utah will be solid as long as Kyle Whittingham's the coach. And that's as far as I'm going to take you. I think Iowa State's still going to be solid. Big believer in Matt Campbell. I want to see what Iowa State football is like after Matt Campbell, but I'm a big Matt Campbell fan. But that's sort of the beauty of the conference, right? Is Arizona going to be good again? I don't know. Is Arizona State going to still stink? I don't know why they haven't risen, but maybe they won't. I don't know.
Yeah.
What's going to happen with Deion? Why is Baylor falling off the table? Why is TCU struggling, here just 15 months after being in the national title game? So, no, I don't know many certainties, but those I do. K-State, very consistent. OSU is going to be good this year, and Utah has remarkable stability.
Seems like uncertainty is the certainty in the Big 12, but that's been the case for the last few years with the parity we've seen. I'll take the OSU, what you said about OSU, a step further, Barry. They've been as consistent as any program in the Big 12, frankly, in the country when it comes to getting to bowl games, winning records. I can't remember what the streak is right now, but even as Oklahoma has had, runs of great success, Texas runs of great success, Oklahoma State just keeps winning. So I think if we're going to say K-State's going to continue to be good, there's no reason to think Oklahoma State is going to fall off the cliff anytime soon. All they've done is maintain that level under Mike Gundy for, more than a decade, more than a decade. So I see them continuing that. And it's going to be interesting to see if they can establish themselves. I mean, nobody in this new Big 12 is going to carry as big a stick as OU and Texas did when it comes to just the league and the, just sort of the cachet that they carried around. But Oklahoma State has got a lot of reasons to feel like they'll have a pretty big say-so in this league because their football has been really good. It continues to be really good. We're not talking about other sports going into the Big 12 right now, but they've got a pretty decent run of other sports and the success that they've had. So I think Oklahoma State's got a good chance to continue their excellence on the football field, but also use that to sort of elevate themselves in the Big 12.
Yeah, I do too, and I like what Mike Gundy's done. One thing, Jacko, I'm excited about, and you know me, I love going to new venues, new college football people. What are you looking most forward to? What venue in the new look Big 12 are you most looking forward to?
It's probably Utah. Obviously Colorado's a place that you and I have been when the Buffs were in the Big 12 before. So Boulder is great. It's beautiful. It's a lovely venue to go to. But I've never been to Utah, to Salt Lake City, to their football stadium. I think Salt Lake City's a beautiful place to visit. And I know that the Ute fans are really passionate. So for me, it's going there. Nothing against the Arizona schools, but I'm a little, I don't have in my head right now if Oklahoma State, if they have them on the schedule and when that is, but it could be really hot in both of those places. So I'm a little hesitant to pick Arizona State, but I can't wait to go check out Utah.
Yeah, the Cowboys this year, in terms of places they've never been, they go to Brigham Young.
Right.
They go to
Colorado,
which they've been 15, 18 years ago. You got to go last year to Folsom Field. And I'm
still as great as ever.
Looking forward to going back. I'm with you. Rice-Eccles Stadium at Utah. I've been to the stadium, not for a football game, though. It was the off season. I think that's going to be a lot of fun to go to. Last year, I got to go to Brigham Young, and I got to go to Cincinnati. Fans, if you hadn't got to go to Cincinnati, it's totally cool. Just the most urban campus you've ever seen. University just tucked right into the middle of an urban Cincinnati neighborhood with this football stadium tucked into the middle of campus. Just a great setup. Very unlike anything we've seen. I think you'll really enjoy. Cowboys aren't going to Cincinnati this year. They will get there either in 25 or 26. But, yeah, I think Utah is going to be fun when the Cowboys go out there. But first, they go to Brigham Young. Beautiful setting, just a magnificent setting. No doubt about it.
If people can go, if you're looking for an away game to go to, I highly recommend BYU. It's a unique setting. Fan base that's passionate. I mean, I think that if you're going to go on a road trip to one of these new places and you're a Cowboy fan, I highly recommend Provo and BYU. So give that a check. Hey, are there any of these new campuses or cities, locales, anything that you're excited to? Obviously, we've been to Phoenix, but, Tempe for Arizona State. Any of these new places that you're interested to go for just for the place itself?
Yeah, I've been to all of them, but Tucson's a really interesting place. I'd like to spend more time in Tucson.
Yeah.
I got to spend extensive time in Cincinnati. If you get a chance, go to Cincinnati, do it. It's great. Salt Lake, you mentioned Salt Lake's beautiful. Go to Salt Lake if you get the chance. Orlando, everybody in the world's been to Orlando,
And sometimes the whole world will be there when you're there.
Yeah,
that's the other thing you get to do.
I mean, I think only 110 million visitors went to Orlando last year from Asia. So, I mean, everybody's been to Orlando. So, but Tucson, and we've all been to Phoenix for 100 things, but Tucson's a place you never go to. I've been twice in my life. I went to a baseball regional in the 80s. And I went to the 2012 Arizona OSU football game. Tucson's a really interesting place. I'd like to go spend some more time there.
Yeah.
I've got the football excited again. Maybe they can keep it up. Got Noah Fafita as the quarterback. It's going to go well, I think. So, but that's a city I'd like to know more about, is Tucson, Arizona.
My lone trip to Tucson was when OU men's basketball played a regional out there one year.
Yeah.
Calvin Sampson days. So I don't remember a ton about it. I'm like you. I'd like to go explore a little bit more when it comes to Tucson. But this is a place I'm excited to go just because I'd go as often as anybody wants to send me there. It's Boulder. I mean, yeah. It's one of the really cool places to visit. And it's sort of like Austin. Like anytime anybody wants to send me to Austin, I know you hate going to Austin because of the traffic. I get it. I don't like the traffic either. But once you're there, all the cool stuff you get to do is well worth it. I don't think the traffic's quite as bad in Boulder. It's a much smaller college-y town, but got a chance to be there last year for Colorado's game against USC when the Buffs were still riding high before they kind of fell all over themselves. And people were gaga for the Buffs. It was fun to see that environment. I assume that the environment is going to continue to be good for a while, but it's going to be curious to see how how that morphs and changes depending on how Deion and the Buffs do. But yeah, I'll go visit Boulder anytime anybody wants to. Hey, let's rapid fire it, Barry. What about Deion Sanders? What's your top of the line, top of the head thing about Deion as he gets ready to become part of the Big 12?
I have one hope and request for Deion Sanders. I hope he lasts long enough to coach the Thanksgiving weekend game against OSU. I'm not optimistic about Deion. It's you got off to a great start last year. The whole nation was all ablaze. You went up there, everybody's fired up. But it's not gone good since then. Portal losses by the dozens, a lack of recruiting. This looks like a house of cards to me. I hope it's not. I hope Colorado stabilizes and becomes a force. That would be great for the Big 12. But I fear that Deion Sanders is not long for Boulder.
Yeah, I don't know if he is either. I mean, obviously he's a cultural phenomenon in a lot of ways. I mean, that was one of the things that I wrote about, but also saw with my own eyes when I was up there for that USC game, was there were obviously a lot of Buffs fans there that were super excited about what was happening at that point early on in the season. But there were a lot of people there that were just Deion fans. They wanted to be there for Deion. They wanted to, support him and all of that. So I don't know. I don't know if it can be sustained. He obviously did well at Jackson State, the HBCU that he really kind of helped to rejuvenate and bring back to life. I was hopeful that he could do the same at Colorado, but looks like tough sledding right now. So he's definitely, I think he's fun. I don't know if he's good for Colorado though. And they'll ultimately obviously have to make that decision. A guy that doesn't look like he's going anywhere anytime soon. The flip side of Deion Sanders, Barry, is Kyle Whittingham, the Utah coach. Okay, so same deal. Word association with Kyle Whittingham. What's top of the head for you about him?
Mike Gundy. Kyle Whittingham was hired 2 weeks before Mike Gundy. They ranked second and third on longevity in major college football. Only Kirk Ferentz, Iowa State, at Iowa has him. So my hope is that Whittingham can stay on the job several years. He and Gundy, that would be a cool rivalry. They meet in Stillwater in late September, a massive game. But that would be a cool Big 12 rivalry. The longest serving coaches virtually in college football. So Whittingham's done a fabulous job at Utah. When he became the coach at Utah, the Utes were not even in a major conference. They were in the Mountain West, and they were not even a power in the Mountain West. So he's done a great job, done a very similar job to what Mike Gundy has done in elevating that Utah brand.
Yeah, and Mike Gundy, he openly says he doesn't have a lot of friends in college football world as far as coaches and other things, but Kyle Whittingham's a guy that Mike Gundy has mentioned several times since we became, since we found out that Utah was going to be part of the Big 12. I don't know that they're friends necessarily, Barry, but I do think Mike Gundy has a pretty robust appreciation for Kyle Whittingham because of the longevity. He's a Utah alum, coaching his alma mater. A lot about these two that is very similar. So I definitely think Mike Gundy's appreciation for Kyle Whittingham is high. And it should be. I mean, it honestly should go both ways. Both of them have done amazing work at the schools they're at, and it's going to be interesting to see how high they can take them in this new Big 12. All right, last thing, Barry. Let's talk about those Arizona schools. We've kind of nibbled around the edges of this. Is there any chance these Arizona schools can become a force in the Big 12?
I'm not optimistic. Both schools have major financial issues. And while they're no longer in a league with somebody with massive advantages like they have been with, say, Oregon in the Pac-12, I just don't know that they have the resources to compete with Utah, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, programs like that. Arizona did a great job rallying, having a good year. The 10-3 season, beat OU in the Alamo Bowl, but they lost their coach. Kept their quarterback. It's probably a good trade, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. And Arizona is a mystery, but we're now working on, a long time since the Sun Devils have been nationally relevant, and they haven't been conference relevant in quite some time. Yeah. It's a place that does not seem to have a lot of resources, does not have a lot of eyeballs. Sun Devil Stadium is, an iconic venue, but they've reduced the capacity to 53,000, and it was less than half full the night I was there to cover Oklahoma State at Arizona State. So this is a place that draws very poorly. Does not bode well for the Sun Devils.
I think Arizona State might be, as I think about programs that are mysteries, why can't they be better? Arizona State might be near the top of that list. I'm not saying they're at the tip top, but they're definitely top 5 in my mind because, again, I mentioned this earlier, you see definitely if you look at quarterbacks around college football, you'll see all sorts of quarterbacks from Phoenix, from Glendale, from outlying areas. I mean, there's all sorts of quarterbacks that come from the greater Phoenix area. And for them to not be able, if there are quarterbacks with that magnitude, you got to think there are other players out there. And I know there are. Phoenix is a big place. There's got to be players to be had. And they just cannot get any traction, it doesn't feel like. And they've tried everything under the sun. They went with a big name in Herm Edwards, and that didn't work out. Now they've gone with an alum. Maybe he can get some traction, but there's bigger mysteries, let's be honest. I mean, any teams that are in Texas or Florida or frankly California, you've got the recruiting bases of those places. If you've got funds, you should be winning. But Arizona State is a total mystery to me. Maybe you're right, Barry. Maybe in a conference where they're not totally, out of, they're not, the heavyweights are not as heavy as they were in the Pac-12. Maybe they can get some traction, but boy, it's going to be some rough sledding because it sure has been to this point. All right, the new Big 12 will come online in the fall. We'll talk a lot more about that as we get closer, but it's all the time we've got today. You can find our columns, videos, and podcasts at selloutcrowd.com, as well as on our mobile app. You can download it today. If you want our content sent straight to your email inbox, we've got you covered there too. Just sign up for our newsletters. It's free and it's easy. Just head to selloutcrowd.com and opt in. If this happens to be your first time hearing or watching us, be sure to subscribe to our show on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. And if you like what you hear, please leave us a review. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.